Building terrain is one of my favourite parts of the hobby. White Dwarf magazine used to show off some incredible scratch-built terrain, like this crashed cargo hauler by Owen Branham, with cool grizzly details like this escape pod and the clever use of a GR-75 Hoth Transport Star Wars toy. But my firm favourite has to be this repurposed cake stand that was fought over in the excellent White Dwarf 182 battle report, Blood and Fire. Hi, I'm Ed and welcome to Minisodes. A big thank you to Dr Spork for printing off and sending me his largest print to date. There's a lot of stuff in this box, and all of it forensically modelled on photos of the scratch-built landing pad. There are lots of cool details to discover here, like the cargo lift, the generator at the base of the observation tower, and even the numbering on the pad that is a little nod to the 41 on the original. It's clearly designed to be modular so that it can be easily constructed in situ, but I wanted to assemble as much as I could for convenience sake. I started with the big plate on a sheet of cardboard, using a combination of superglue to get a quick hold and then PVA for a lasting bond. Followed by the smaller secondary pad. Making sure the upside-down plate was completely flat, I glued the cake stand base onto the bottom and set the whole thing aside to dry in the kitchen. I then glued a few more pieces that were liable to be lost, like the towers, the radar dish, and the ladder. With that done, I set about getting my bearings, just seeing how the whole thing fit together. I then filled a small container with PVA and identified a few places on the model that could use a bit of texture, mainly around the perimeter and on top of the rocks, sprinkling on some basing mix onto the PVA. After an hour of drying time, I shook off the excess, making a bit of a mess, then swept up the basing mix, returning it to the container. I carefully pipetted some isopropyl and PVA onto the basing mix to lock that texture in place and make it a bit more durable. The half a can of black primer I had left just about covered the model, with the exception of the plate, which I placed on top and painted with some black artist's acrylic using a large brush. The whole model was now primed and just needed a bit of time to dry before the next phase. I dug out 3 metallic paints that I just don't use anymore, mixed them up in a pot, and began slapping it on all the parts of the structure. For the rocks, I mixed some black, white, and green acrylic to make a budget Mechanicus standard grey. Thank you to Katie on the Minisodes Discord, who recommended a liberal wash of black on the metal. Followed by dabbing up any pooled areas with some blue roll. Early the next morning, I was back to it, dry brushing metal onto the whole structure. I then used green acrylic paint on the base to form a foundation where the flock would be going later. I added a second coat, just in case there were any areas that might show through the flock, maneuvering the brush carefully around the textured areas. And while I do that, a very warm welcome to this month's patrons, Quinn, Jiggalag, Ola Foster, and Cookie Pyro. To be completely honest, Minisodes patrons make this video possible, so a huge thank you to all of those names shooting up the left-hand side of the screen. Patreon basically gives me a part-time job doing the two things I love, painting old Warhammer and making stuff like this landing pad. Joining will give you access to a monthly podcast, which features a look behind the curtain and interviews, along with access to the Minisodes Discord, as well as first dibs on video releases. I'm also really looking forward to rolling dice and having a beer with those patrons travelling to Bristol to take part in Second Heads, the inaugural Minisodes meetup. If any of that sounds appealing, the link to the Patreon is in my bio and the video description. It would be awesome to have you aboard. Let's get back to painting. Once the green was down, I sponged Rhinox hide onto the rocks to give it a oxidized patina. Now for the fun part, filling in the black and white checkered design in the center of each landing pad. And then Avalon Sunset for the hazard stripes around each of the lift platforms. Dr Spork has made my life really easy here by making all of these designs slightly raised. I highlighted the yellow with a few thin coats of Ureal yellow. The textured basing was dry brushed a lighter grey. And the same grey was applied to the rocks around the base of the tower. I then put my paints away and readied the desk for flocking. Applying PVA to all the green areas, and again taking care to go around the textured areas. I used a teaspoon to sprinkle on my chosen flock, Javis Scenic Mid-Green Fine Turf, for that saturated 2nd edition green look. After shaking off the excess, I used superglue to attach a few tufts that I had left over from my Night Goblins project. Then pipetted ISO PVA all over the flocked areas for a solid seal. The landing plate went back onto the model in readiness for one last step: weathering. A light sponging of Rhinox hide, and finally, a few select smears of Garagax sewer. This 3D print was an absolute delight to work with, easy to build and paint, completed in a day and a half, and seriously impressive on the tabletop. Dr Spork is selling this STL on both Cults 3D and My Mini Factory for £5. But you can use the code LandingPad50 for a whopping 50% discount. This code is valid until the 14th of March, 2026. Oh, and while you're there, do check out all of his other amazing designs across both sci-fi and fantasy settings. Right, I'm off to write some missions and paint a couple of Honor Company Space Marines for the Second Heads event. Thanks for watching, everyone, and happy hobbying.